Coming up next on All About Android, we discuss new AR Core features. For new feature is occlusion, which is really cool looking. Also, Oppo's in-display camera sensor. Verified SMS is coming to Android messages. Chrome 79 has a little bit of a rollout snafu that Google's working on. There's translation that's now built into the Assistant. We demo that. A few of your emails and a whole lot more coming up next on All About Android.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This episode of All About Android is brought to you by Capterra. Find the right tools to make an informed software decision for your business. Visit Capterra's free website at capterra.com/AAA. Hello and welcome to All About Android, episode 451, recorded on Tuesday, December 17th, 2019. Your weekly source for the latest news, hardware, and apps for the Android faithful. I'm Jason Howell.
And I'm Ron Richards.
And I'm Florence Ion. And guys, it's almost Christmas.
Oh my goodness.
It's that time of year.
It's almost a miracle of Christmas.
I would dare say it's the most wonderful time of the year.
Almost the most wonderful time. Next week, we'll have the most wonderful time. We're still we'll jump the gun a little bit, but we're so close.
In the mood, in the festive season.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's right. Good to see you both. We've been missing each other, Ron. We've been
I know. I'm glad to get the gang back together. It's good after your long vacation, and then I was out last week. I actually was. I couldn't make the show because I was having dinner with our good friends Eileen and Tom.
Oh, awesome!
Eileen Rivera, OG All About Android host,
original,
and Tom Merritt. Yeah, so it was a little bit of a reunion of sorts in Los Angeles last week. So it was very nice.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I got to see them a couple of months ago, so we're all getting that opportunity.
They're the best. The All About Android family's the best.
That's true. Joining us, also the best, but the best from a different part of the world and for different reasons, from AndroidAuthority.com, it's David Immel. How you doing, David?
Hey. Doing wonderful because I'm in Tokyo, and every time I come to Japan, I just feel very happy. So it's a good week.
So every time you come to Japan, how often have you been to Japan?
Once a year for the last 3 years.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, David, I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but I do believe the first time you went to Japan, you went to the Pokemon store.
that plushie is still at my mom's house.
Really? You know what? Yeah. I just am going to drive to your mom's house tomorrow and go get it. So I had asked David because he teased me on WhatsApp with all these pictures of the Pokemon Cafe. And I was like, please, please, please bring me anything. I don't care. Bring me a napkin. But David ended up buying me a plushie. So it's always in the back of my mind is that's something that I need to bring home someday.
So
yeah, you got to give me your new address so I can ship it to you.
So you have a plushie waiting for you that's 3 years old at this point.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. All right. It's taken good care of, though, I imagine.
But I don't forget about my Pokemon. Even if I don't physically catch them in the ball, I account for them. You see, that's the kind of Pokemon mother that I am.
One of these days you'll be reunited, or united, actually, not even reunited. You'll just be united, and it'll feel so good.
My long-lost Pokemon.
Well, David, it's great to get you on. We will just kind of preface and say that you are in Japan. You're in a hostel right now, so we're gonna do everything in our power to keep the internet connection rolling. Super thrilled to get you on, though, and that you could take time. And also, your jacket's rubbing on the mic, just to give you a heads up on that.
Oh, still?
So pull that away,
okay,
and we'll be good to go. And Victor, news time. Oh yeah, you can jump into it. It's cool. I know you really want to get to it.
It's been. But go ahead, finish your throw.
It's time for the news.
I've been working on best ofs all week, so I don't even know what day it is anymore. Here's Android news.
I understand. Oh, I feel that pain so deeply.
It's Android Day, Victor. That's what.
Yeah, Android Day. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and just to go on with that. Sorry, Ron. Going over the past year, with it.
Yeah,
There was
yeah.
like a lot of stuff on there, and I was like, wow, that was only February?
Yeah.
Wow, that was only January.
Is this your
So-
first time doing the best of Death March?
No,
Oh, no.
no.
Oh, no.
Oh,
I've
okay. I
done
didn't think
before.
so because I enjoyed the best ofs a couple of years ago when Jason was neck deep in them, and I'm glad to there are a lot of moments on this show. It is a long show, a 2-hour show, 52 weeks a
Weekly.
year. There are a lot of moments, yeah.
But it all feels like it was like last week.
Yeah.
It's really weird when you do the best of and you're like, oh shoot, that was February. That was almost a year ago. It just shows you how fast we're growing older.
Yeah.
How fast
As
time
we
is flying.
go on.
And I should also say, Flo, by the way, once you have a baby, that time machine like speeds up. So prepare yourself.
It's crazy. I just literally before the show lowered Luna's mattress down.
I saw that on the
I said because I told my wife if she sits up 3 times, then I'll do it. And sure enough, that happened today. Once the other night, twice on naps today. So I was there with the Allen wrench and I lowered the crib. And oh my God, I'm getting old.
Yeah.
It's happening too fast.
It does. That's how it goes.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what's happening fast as well, or what isn't happening fast. And that's people buying $1,000 flagship smartphones.
Oh, really?
In the most unshocking news to me, at least, an NPD report was released that reinforces that a small percentage of Americans actually spend $1,000 on a smartphone. In fact, that's fewer than 10%, according to the report. Yet, despite the low sales, those phones get much of the attention in media and marketing, and it's attributed to people in major urban areas likely to be more inclined to buy those high-end devices. I don't know what they're talking about at all. And NPD says with 5G around the corner, it could result in more $1,000 phones, at least in the short term. Consumers could be saving their next big device purchase until after the 5G market has settled a bit, which I sincerely doubt. But it could be also another reason could be for the dip, could be a dip in premium phone sales. And also that a good speculation as to why this is because the mid-range got a severe upgrade this year. I'm sure we're going to talk about that in our end of year wrap-up show. And so you don't need to spend $1,000 and you can still get a good piece of phone. I was not shocked by this. I do not think the marketplace wants $1,000 phones, nor do I think they're waiting for 5G. I think 5G is just a nuisance that everybody, at least the normal people, are just like, oh, eye roll, another thing. And I think people, I mean, hopefully, what I hope is that people buy the phone that they can afford, and that's what they're using, and it seems like that's what's happening. I don't know. Do you guys find that this aligns that you're not seeing as many people buying the $1,000 phones?
Yep. I mean, Android Police's phone of the year was the Pixel 3a line. And I think for very good reason, because that just shows that like you don't need to spend $1,000 to get a phone that's like perfectly capable as the flagship. It used to be that you would be giving up a lot, you know, to go in that price range. But with tech just becoming, with specs becoming just an absolute commodity, and just a lot of the hard work being done on the software side, you know, you can punch a lot more power into these lower cost phones. And I think people are going to start catching on. They're like, that's what is the point if I don't have to?
Yeah, not only that, user preference. Like what are the features that people prefer to have in their phones? Battery, good camera. I think some of these mid-range devices are starting to specialize in those specific categories instead of specializing in everything like the premium smartphones tend to do. And in doing so, and by the way, the design of these mid-range phones are also like good enough that people look at it and they go, wow, you know, that looks like a top-tier phone, even though it's still firmly in the mid-range. The design kind of aesthetic has caught up to where there isn't a whole lot of difference between the mid-range and the premium phones. So
I think I would argue that they're better than good enough at this point. I think that they're solid. I mean, I think
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I think that you're no longer sacrificing anything by going mid-range. I think you actually get a competitive phone.
100%.
I don't know, David. What do you think of the $1,000 flagship phones versus premium phones?
I would really like to see a breakdown by region and market. Because I think in the United States, at least, it seems like people, one, they don't really look at the price that much because everyone's on a carrier plan, and very few people like buy phones outright in the US.
Yeah.
And then also like at least from what I've seen, it seems like most people don't really realize that mid-range phones exist in the United States. They just kind of like, they go in the store and they get pitched the Galaxy S10 or the iPhone 11 Pro, and then they buy it. And it's like if it's a $30 a month versus $34 a month, I don't think most people care. But I could see like globally that being like a huge shift, because I think in other markets people actually buy from the websites way more often, whereas in the United States it's like pretty much driven by carrier stores.
Driven by carrier stores, like when I think about like when I go home to Boise, where most of my family is, and I look at the phones that they're using. I mean, so many, are obviously they're using iPhones. They aren't necessarily using the current iPhone, and then those who are using Android devices aren't necessarily using the top of the line Samsung devices either. So they're going into the carrier stores and not necessarily going with the premium phone. Being sold by, probably on price or what, however that goes in the carrier store, they're being pitched and sold the kind of mid-tier devices, let's say. That's my experience with just a few of my members of my family when I go back and visit. But so I don't know how that fleshes out, widespread. 10%, even though 10%, seems like a small number, that's still a lot of people.
I think that's pretty huge, actually. Yeah. That's like pretty big number, especially if that's like in all phone sales total. That's like a lot.
Right.
That's a lot.
I mean, 90% of the remaining market, isn't doing that. That's obviously that's an insanely huge number, and that's a lot of people. But still, 10% of that entire pool is still quite a few people who are buying. Yeah. Now, is that on balance? Are we balanced with how much attention these premium smartphones continue to get based on that number? What do you think about that, David?
When you say balanced, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, in the media and kind of the fanatics around Android devices, let's say, spend a lot of time, a lot of energy and attention focused on these premium smartphones. But if only 10% of people are actually buying them, should there be more attention spent in some of these other categories?
I actually think that in the US, at least in 2019, the media has been a lot more positive of mid-range stuff. Yeah. And I think that's just because we've gotten, like you guys were saying, to this point where everything is better than good enough. Like Pixel 3a, crazy good. OnePlus is sort of considered mid-range in terms of price, but I see people with OnePlus phones in the US sometimes. And when we, like Flo, you were saying, like Android Police made the Pixel 3a the phone of the year, I think that's kind of happening across a lot of different media sources.
Yep.
Because you use a phone, and especially because Android is becoming so ubiquitous, and like you don't really have mid-range chips that lag anymore. Like lag kind of isn't really a thing anymore, except on like a very few select phones. So like a mid-range chip is only going to really make a difference in gaming or other very, very small tasks that are very separated from what the mass amount of people do. So yeah, I think overall the media has pushed mid-range pretty hard in 2019, at least compared to previous years.
Yeah, I think you're right. And OnePlus is now in carrier stores, or has been for a short amount of time anyways, for a little more than a year, I guess, in some carrier stores, and now broader availability. So we're starting to see even these manufacturers that used to be sold only through the site, at least here in the U.S., the carriers are being more open to bringing them in. So there does seem to be more openness as far as that's concerned. And, part of that is just because those phones are pretty darn good nowadays. So that makes a lot of sense. All right, Flo, you got the next one.
Yeah, this one takes a little bit of a different turn. So if it's not just happening in China, Google, or rather China into the US, Google's been dealing with antitrust laws in Turkey since last year. And now devices released in the country will launch with no support for Google apps and services. So any existing devices that are alive and viable in Turkey right now will remain untouched. And services on those phones will continue continue to work. But in this case, Google was required to address a number of key issues. One was to offer the option to change the default search engine on new phones. So you have to be able to do that on any of the phones that exist. Google didn't meet that requirement, and as a result has faced a fine of 0.05% of Google's revenue per day until resolved. This is a stopgap measure on Google's part while it works to address all issues. And this antitrust case is on top of, a lot of scrutiny from the EU, which is actually what I meant to address at the beginning of this segue. Sorry, I was thinking about a different relatable thing. But yeah, it's interesting to just see this come in, and I do wonder when this might become a concern here in the US.
Yeah, kind of feels that way.
Because we didn't see it. Actually, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we saw this happen to Microsoft in the US after what happened to them in the EU in the 90s. So I don't know that we would have the same precedent over here in the US. I don't know, but it's interesting nonetheless, just to see what's happening overseas with Google.
Yeah, Google's getting this from all angles now, and it seems like the heat is building here in the US. I don't know if that's a prediction of some sort for 2020 as far as how that is going to impact Android as we lead into this next year, but no good for Google if, continually market after market, it finds itself in a position where it can't offer its services. Who knows if that's the direction it's going, but or if this was avoidable, because it seemed like they had ample time. They had 6 months to address some of the key points of what this specified, and they weren't able to do that. I'm curious to know why and what they weren't able to do, and why they ended up here in the first place. Are they making a statement, or was it incompetence, or I'm not really quite sure. But I think it's a problem of, or rather a byproduct of the Google business model, because I'm thinking about Apple. And so the Safari browser will allow you to choose your search engine from the settings, which is great. So it doesn't go against that, particular matter. But when you think about Google, where it makes its money is the activity that you do in the browser and the activity that you do in the assistant for the most part. It's not making money off of the hardware that Apple is. And so it's kind of, it puts them in a special position, because this is literally how they make their revenue. It's not, I guess it is just what happened to Microsoft. And I'm really curious to see if, this is going to get more attention just because this is on mobile phones, and mobile phones are they're just innumerous compared to what computers were back in the day, and just everything has a service on it. So 2020, who knows? 2020, Google, you got a lot to look forward to.
Sundar's got a lot on his plate.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Meanwhile, Sundar, he already had a lot on his plate, but this is, I imagine, one of the of his list of on the whiteboard that he has in his office, his little whiteboard. At the very top in bold letters is antitrust. It's just one word, and so he's got a lot to deal with there. We'll see what that leads. In a little bit more fun news, I think this is interesting. Google showed off some new changes to ARCore, specifically the new Depth API. It's going to bring support for occlusion. Occlusion in this regard is basically when a virtual object is blocked by a real-world object. So you'd be looking through the viewfinder, and you could see a virtual cat in the room peeking out from behind a real couch, that sort of thing. Because if you've played around with AR on Android, anything ARCore supported right now, you get your best results if you pick a wide open in the middle of the room space to drop your virtual object, and anytime it happens to run into something that is actually in the room, it doesn't seem to play nice with it. Well, now they're finally baking in support for occlusion that allows for this. You can see this cat peeking out from the other side of these pillows, this stack of pillows. I think those are pillows. Anyways, those aren't pillows. Anyways, sorry, movie joke. But anyways, it's pretty effective. It kind of looks real until you really look at it closely. And you're like, oh wait, that's a virtual cat. So
Yeah.
It's horrifying.
horrifying indeed. Google is leaning entirely on its software to do this. No new hardware is needed in order to pull it off. Actually, if you have the Houses app, the HOUZZ app, I never know how to say that, by the way. Every time
I thought it was
Hose. Is it House?
Hose.
Or is it Houses? Because there's
Houses.
2 Z's, so Houses. I never know. But anyways, they have this feature embedded in the app right now. View in My Room 3D is the name of the feature. And you can place like furniture in your room and move around. And if a chair happens to move in the way, it'll actually block it instead of like your virtual object appearing strangely over the top of it. So pretty cool stuff. What y'all think?
See what a cat would a cat look nice in my house?
Yeah. Oh yes. I want to purchase that cat and put it over there by that chair.
What breed of
How
dog
that
would
look?
go well with my new sofas? Should I get a beagle
Lord.
or should I get a Saint Bernard?
Yeah. Does it match? Does it match?
Oh God.
Buy now with one click.
Those are the important questions that you can answer.
I
with
will
this feature.
say and admit here on air and on the record that when my cat was alive, I definitely did choose aesthetics based on, how she would blend in because she was a black and white cat. So,
So black and white's pretty easy to match things to, right? Everything goes.
It
with
is.
black and white.
It is, but
Cool.
maybe if I had a, I don't know, a more ornate cat that I would need like more ornate
A
rugs,
bangle.
like
Okay.
golden fixtures, like things, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. If your cat was wearing a very like a very like
well, I'm just
like a
thinking about
tall
those special
golden
breeds
crown,
that are
you would
like
want to.
that have the very fluffy hair and they have very particular faces. And this is just anyway.
Meanwhile,
Anyway.
should also just state for the record, Houses does not allow you to purchase animals
No.
for your room that I know of.
And also, please adopt. Don't shop.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. This is probably going to be a cool feature for when Google comes out with its next iteration of Google Glass that actually allows you to embed virtual objects through your glasses while you're looking out in the real world, right? That's totally going to happen, right?
Yeah, sure.
This would be the kind of thing. This was the kind of thing that Magic Leap really hung its hat on before it became a public thing that everybody stopped caring about.
Let me throw shapes at my Peloton. What?
Yeah, so
Better than that
my
commercial.
Lord.
so in the article, it shows some demonstrations that the author was allowed to play around with at the Google headquarters, and this kind of obviously this shows the interactivity of the real world object of the bike, and you can throw objects at it, virtual objects, and they actually bounce off the bike and fall behind it, and they're blocked and that sort of stuff. So it kind of shows the complexity
It
of
just
this.
looks
It's
like the
actually kinda
physics in an early iteration Valve game.
Yeah.
Yeah. yeah.
when
Gary's
physics were really introduced to Half-Life 2 and they looked like this.
It's a demo. It's a proof of concept.
Okay, I know, but
yeah.
I've been around this world long enough.
Oh, and that's like a donut throwing demo? I didn't see that one. Okay, that's pretty cool. You can
I
high
just
five.
feel like all we see are demos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
and it's neat. It's neat. You can do this. And as we know, it's great for, I'm sure Flo would tell us how great Pokemon is and like all the other kind of the game stuff. But even like the AR stuff that Google puts in the photos, like when you can add a stormtrooper to your photos, literally all I've ever seen anybody do is, oh, cool, I could do this, and then never touch it again.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So what I love the concept of AR. I love the idea of affecting the reality without any additional hardware or anything like that. But I've yet to see a practical application that completely, kill, the killer app, right? Like it doesn't exist.
Yeah. I mean,
Isn't that kind of the definition of Google, though? Like
Yeah.
they're basically just like scientists who love making cool stuff, but the practicality of 85% of their things is
Yep.
a little
fair.
bit not really in the wheelhouse.
It has a lot of potential if anybody ever realizes that it's there. Like it's in, I would say Houzz is actually a really great example of how this could be useful. I was going to try and show it off, but the problem is the angle and
it's so hard to do AR on the
The
show.
chair is
I feel
basically
like
this big. If I drop it on the table where you could see it,
do we
and it
need an
wouldn't work.
AR camera for next year? I know that's like a total PETA and somebody has to set it up and it's a thing, but I'm
What's
just
a PETA?
wondering. A PETA.
Oh,
spell it
is
out.
that a thing people say? Do they do that? Oh wow.
So like have a phone connected to the TriCaster or something like that for this sort of thing?
Yeah, just something.
Yeah.
Because
That would be nice.
I don't know. It was just, but
It'd be
I
nice
totally
to be able
agree
to
with
show it
Ron.
off, but-
Like I downloaded Detective Pikachu and I only did content one day with it.
Mm-hmm.
Content. Because that's
Content.
what I think about my social media as content. Oh my God.
Everything is content flow. That's how this world works that we live in now.
To be
The
fair.
content flowing.
That's right. The flow feed.
Gotta
All right.
keep the flow feed going.
Let's take a break. We'll thank the sponsor. Then we'll get into some hardware, pretty light hardware this week, actually. Then we've got some app news, some emails, a lot more coming up. But first, this episode of All About Android is brought to you by Capterra. Capterra is the leading free online resource to help you find the right software solution for your business. If you dream of being more productive, well, you can save your time and upgrade the way you work with the right software. So that's going to make you more productive. You can explore software and narrow down your favorite options in minutes with software guides and comparison tools. So you can start making your work be less work and find the right software. That's at capterra.com/AAA. With over 1 million reviews of products from real software users, you can discover everything you need to make an informed decision. It's validation you can trust, and you can be confident with your purchase with that because you've got the whole foundation of other Capterra users telling you what they love, like being able to compare these features and pitch in and be part of this community with your own review. You can leave a review and continue to help Capterra to be that leading free online resource for software solutions. Everybody's helping everybody in that case. Search more than 700 specific categories of software, everything from digital workplace software to video management software. No matter what kind of software your business needs, Capterra makes it easy to discover the right solution fast. Capterra also believes that software makes the world a better place because software can help every organization become a more efficient, a more effective version of itself. And I'm telling you, you open it up, you plug in a single category, or you just browse the categories list, you're going to find all sorts of categories you didn't realize existed, A, and B, you're going to realize that there's software created specifically for it. And it just goes to show you, like, there's a lot of great minds making great software out there, so much so that it can be hard to find the right solution. That's what Capterra is all about. It makes it easy to find it. Join the millions of people who use Capterra each month to find the right tools for their business. Visit capterra.com/AAA for free today, and you can find the tools to make an informed software decision for your business. That's capterra.com/AAA, and I'll spell it out, CAPTERRA.com/AAA. Capterra is software selection simplified. Check it out for yourself, and we thank Capterra for their support of All About Android. All right, cool stuff coming up right now in hardware.
So, David, I know you're on a bit of a social media break at the moment, which I think is very healthy. Just in case you want my opinion on that. But I do know that before you went on your break, right now you're in Japan, but you were in a neighboring country checking out Oppo. They had an under display camera that they were showing off. Kind of doing away with the notch and showing a couple of different things that can be done with phone looks and just how to integrate different hardware. I want to hear, what was your experience like? What is it, and what is it like being in China and seeing these phones come out that we just talk about here on the show? Like, there are things we'll never see in person, but obviously they exist somewhere in, on Earth. So I want to hear about your experience.
Yes, so I was really excited about this particular feature. What's kind of funny is that at Oppo's Innovation Day, it wasn't really about this feature because they showed. Sorry, I'm a little bit sick. They showed this off 6 months ago in Shanghai, but it was in like this like black container case thing. The real highlights of Oppo Innovation Day were like some new AR glasses that are kind of like HoloLens, and then some new 5G access point. But I think most people were gravitating towards this because they actually had it there. And I think the technology is super cool because you can't really see the camera unless you're, one, at a certain angle, or two, like the wallpaper is a certain color. I don't know why red works better than like blue or other colors. But you can't really see it at all, which is pretty cool. Are you guys still here? Just
yeah.
making
Oh
sure.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we're
Okay. Cool. And so like, yeah, it kind of blew up. Like a lot of people got really, really interested in it. I was posting just like everything Oppo had at the Innovation Day thing on Twitter, and this photo that you see in this article here just like went totally viral. And so I was like, okay, well, I guess I need to look more into this. So I did a dedicated video on it, and then I wrote this kind of op-ed about it. And I think this is like the next big innovation step, right? Because like for the last maybe 2 years, we've been trying to avoid front-facing cameras in one way or another. It's like we either have pop-up cameras, which have moving parts, and then there's an argument about that, or you have a notch, and the notch designs are all different, but kind of equally ugly. So it's nice that this is something that can potentially make us stop arguing about this altogether. Oppo didn't say like if they're putting it in a phone anytime soon, but the technology feels fairly ready, in my opinion. So I hope we start to see it in phones soon. Oppo did hint that they're going to make a Western push within the next year, but then we've also got, companies like Xiaomi that have said that same thing, and it's not true. So, yeah, I hope that we start to see some like that in the next year or so, but it's fairly unlikely.
So when you said red letting it shine through, is that to say that if you have like a red wallpaper, it makes it easier to see the in-display camera? Is that what you meant?
It's harder to see with a red wallpaper.
Harder to see.
It's really weird. Like I specifically put it on a blue wallpaper, and blue is the color where it's easiest to see. And I don't really know why color affects how you can see it. Basically, it's a super low resolution, very, very thin display layer. So the rest of the screen, the rest of the phone has like all the layers that a phone usually has, but the little cutout for the camera has a single layer that's translucent. And so when you're taking like selfies and stuff, there can be a little bit of like this kind of haze look, but they're trying to get rid of that in software, and it's honestly not that bad. Yeah, so I don't know. I just think this is really exciting, right? Because it's one of the things that I feel like we've been trying to move towards for years. Like when the first in-display fingerprint sensor came out, I vividly remembered being in middle school, and the original iPod Touch had just come out. And they had this fake app where it was basically a fingerprint scanner app that was fake, and you would fool your friends into thinking that there was a actual fingerprint scanner in your iPod, and it was like so futuristic, and like, but you were fooling your friends, right? You would actually like double tap in the top right corner, and then when you touched the screen, it would authenticate. So they didn't know that you were supposed to double tap, so it wouldn't work for them. So it was like access denied. And so when the first actual in-display fingerprint scanner came out, I was like, this is amazing. We're actually getting into the future. And now if we can get into this like, slate of glass that is display, and you don't have to deal with anything else, like that's pretty futuristic. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting the opportunity to play around with a phone that has this once we start to see it. Have you been positive on in-display fingerprint sensors? Like, I know, the latest Snapdragon news says that's a larger sensor. So I'm very, very hopeful that improves things, because I know at least on the Samsung devices, I haven't been too happy with it.
I remember on the S10 and the Note 10, it was not very good, which is a little sad because that's technically the better technology. Hypersonic is better because you can use it when it's wet. I think that they've gotten a lot better over generations. Like, the in-display optical sensors have gotten better and better over time. And every time I go to China, I feel like a company is showing me some new in-display fingerprint reader tech. Vivo, almost exactly a year ago, actually showed me a phone it had no buttons and no ports, which was kind of ridiculous. But a big thing about it was that the entire screen was a fingerprint sensor, and it was 20 times faster than normal in-display fingerprint sensors. Wow. And it worked consistently over and over and over again. So I think the tech is going to get a lot better. It's just it's a factor of getting the price down. Yeah. I actually have a bet with Stephen Hall from 9 to 5 Google. He thinks that by 2021 there will be no more in-display fingerprint sensors, and it's all going to be Face ID cameras.
Oh wow!
But I disagree, because I think it's going to take, especially if we move towards this all display thing, and you don't have a notch. I think it's going to take a lot longer to put the Face ID or 3D unlock technology under the display than it is to improve in-display fingerprint sensors and make them more accurate and faster. So I think maybe one day, but for now, also I think it's more important to authenticate with your fingerprint than it is with your face data, just for security reasons, I guess. It's harder to get your hand, I think, and not wake you up. With the Pixel, right? The big issue with the Pixel was that your eyes didn't need to be open for the face unlock to work, and a lot of people memed about that and said well, just don't sleep next to people you don't trust. And it's okay, but also
that's kind of a weak defense. I feel like.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I completely agree. So the future will be all glass, in-display camera, and in-display fingerprint sensor.
I'm okay with that.
What else are they going to put in the display? There's got to be something else.
So this phone actually had no buttons or ports either. So when I was doing the video of it, it sits on a wireless charging pad, and there are no ports. And I'm just
So, well, hang on. Let me ask you a question. Is there a bezel?
A little bit. You can kind of see it in that photo, but it's not really, not much.
I was gonna say, if the camera's under the glass, the 3D sensor's under the glass, there are no buttons, no ports, and minimal bezel, that's very close to my Expanse-like future phone that I've been looking for.
I mean, in Xiaomi with the Mi Mix Alpha, right? It's all display wrapped around the entire body, right? So,
oh my goodness! But do not drop that sucker. My goodness.
I know.
Exactly.
I know.
Well,
that's
once we perfect transparent aluminum and we have the unbreakable glass that we can have from the Star Trek universe, we'll be in great shape.
Yeah, I was going to say, because it breaks in the Expanse. Sorry,
it does. Yeah, right. That's why I switched over to Star Trek. So,
yeah, this will all happen by 2021. Everything you just said, Ron, will happen.
Sci-Fi foresaw it. Okay.
Yeah, I think we're probably going to see a lot of really fast innovation in this space in 2020.
Yeah.
Which is good, because 2020 is supposed to be the future year anyway.
Yeah.
We're supposed to have flying cars and all that stuff. So
totally. Maybe our phones will be our flying cars. And actually, Ron, I'm going to move up your hardware story to right now, because it kind of ties in with this a little bit.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, so we were talking earlier when we were talking about flagship phones, about OnePlus, about how they're not quite flagship phones, but the phones are pretty good. I use the OnePlus 7. I'm really I really love it. Well, OnePlus made a nested announcement, a recursive announcement. No, an announcement, basically an announcement of an announcement to take place at CES. It is called OnePlus Concept One, and it is the first in a new series. And that announcement will happen on January 7th in CES. And in fact, what they said is that on the 6th anniversary of our founding, our commitment to doing things differently and pushing boundaries is stronger than ever. Come see an alternate vision for the future of smartphones with the unveiling of the OnePlus Concept One at CES. And I gotta ask the question: you think OnePlus is getting in the foldable game? I hope so. I like the idea of a alternate vision. That's for sure. That's exciting. David, do you have any inside scoop on what this might be? Since you're closer to OnePlus than we are right now geographically.
I don't currently, which is interesting because I have a few insiders there who usually tell me about this stuff. But I've heard nothing about it. I don't even know if I've received an invite to the CES thing. However, I haven't checked my email in like 6 days. And also, since I started getting CES emails, I kind of tuned out. So,
Attaboy.
yeah, I need to check that. But it is exciting. I like seeing concept devices, even if they don't come to market, because at least it forces people to try to innovate.
Well, and that's what I've been saying. The one thing that we've been lacking, I think, up until this year. Oh man, we're like, I feel like we're previewing our year review show. But one of the things that I love to see in 2019 has been the crazy attempts at doing different things. For like I've been so sick of the same standard rectangle China phone. That kind of design that you can get in Shenzhen and just like throw Android on it. So it's great to see, companies taking risks with foldable phones, with thinner, with disappearing bezels, with whatever kind of thing you name it, the kind of waterfall edge and all that fun stuff. So I'm, OnePlus, bring it on. I'm ready and waiting. If I dared to go to CES ever again, I would attend this event, but I won't be there. So
yeah, I was gonna say foldables in particular, like, really excited me when they first started getting attention, because that's just a different form factor, and all the form factors are different, right? You've got like the Razr, which is a clamshell, and then you've got like the Mate X, which goes like this, and you've got the Galaxy Fold, which goes like this, and it's like it's cool that it's just like we can just figure out a new way to use your device, and it doesn't have to be the same rectangle phone that has a different camera array. I'm just waiting for whoever comes up with the foldable phone that turns into one of those fortune things we did in elementary school. Where you gotta go open, close, fold, open, flap, and
the Motorola origami.
Yeah. I was saying they should have made the Motorola, and it's a rollable phone.
That's great.
Like
that's awesome.
The Motorola scroll.
A scroll phone.
Yes.
The Motorola scroll. The Motorola Scrolla.
Yeah.
Love it. That one's free, Motorola. You can take that. We'll look at that.
Oh, I'm sure they're like, oh, finally we got the name of our product.
We figured. Thank you all about Android. The Motorola Scrolla. Love it. On the opposite end of that spectrum, and actually, I'm only bringing this up because I just received it a couple of days ago. I literally unboxed it earlier today and kind of charged it up and powered it up. And this is not a new device to the show. It's the Nokia 4.2. It was actually reviewed by Matteo Doni on the show back in episode 427. And I'm just happy to get this because I haven't really had much time with any of the new school Nokia Android devices. And I finally got in touch with a contact who's like, you know what? I can take care of that. So I think with future Nokia devices, we're going to start getting these to be able to show off on the show. But this is kind of an older device. This is an Android One device that came out. Well, like I said, Matteo reviewed this on this show back in July. So it's been out for a while. It's like less than $200. Definitely, kind of on the low end, and definitely, as you can see, it loves slurping up some fingerprints all over the back there. Every time I wipe it off, like 2 seconds later, it looks like that. But so anyways, I haven't had a whole lot of time with it, but I am excited to actually have the opportunity to play around a little bit more with Nokia phones, because I mean that's definitely, I would say, one of the many stories, and maybe we touch on this again next week, but as far as OEMs are concerned, Nokia on Android, this has been an experiment that seems to be working. Would you agree, David? Do you think this is kind of working right now for HMD? And they're kind of, I don't know that I saw that coming, because when I heard that HMD is going to redo the Nokia brand, but it's not really Nokia, I think I thought that spelled doom, but I've been pleasantly surprised. What about you?
Yeah, I think they've kind of reinvented themselves really well. Obviously, it's a completely different design, and it's not the Nokia that we used to know. But I do love their new designs. I do love their new phones. I think that for the price, they're beautiful. Like, the Scandinavian design is obviously awesome, and they like to push that, heritage thing pretty hard. But every phone that they've made has been like affordable, amazing UI that's really simplistic, beautiful phones. I think they've absolutely killed it since like they relaunched at MWC. Was it 2 years ago? 3 years ago?
I think it was about two or three. Maybe it's 3 now.
I think it was
the
2
show's
years
a time
ago.
machine, so I don't really actually know have any concept of time anymore.
Yeah, I think all their phones have been amazing. I would love to see another flagship of flagships. The Nokia 9 was obviously their one kind of big blunder because of their partnership with Light that didn't really work out the way they wanted it to. But if they would just like make the Nokia 10 and make it amazing, I could really be into that.
Yeah, I'm excited. So I hope this means getting more devices from Nokia in our hands and on this show. That's kind of my goal. But starting with the 4.2, which really I just got out of curiosity's sake more than anything. And for a less than $200 device, this thing feels really solid. And like you said, kind of the UI experience is really like very adheres entirely to stock. It's an Android One device, so it looks like what you would expect out of a stock Android in today's day and age. So cool stuff. Hope to bring more on the show in 2020 around Nokia. But we actually have some interesting app news, so let's jump right there. We'll jump to it.
I love interesting app news.
Interesting app. I know, some weeks we have very uninteresting app news, which means that we don't do any app news.
It's true.
This week, we've got some stuff to talk about. Messages is getting new verified SMS and spam protection features. So this is good to see. Verified SMS confirms the true identity of businesses who might be texting you. It's done on a per message basis, and basically they're able to verify, and then a business name and logo will actually be shown in the verification badge in the thread. And this image, if you kind of zoom in a little bit, they're demonstrating it. On the left, you get a message that isn't identified, from what I can tell. It shows nothing in the little like badge next to the message. It's like a very generic thing. On the right side, you got it from Google. You see the little Google badge. That shows you that it's kind of like a verified official message coming from a business. It gives you a little bit more contextual information up at the top as well, as far as what you're seeing. So any way that we can be more certain as far as what we're actually receiving on our phones. I don't get a whole lot of text message spam, but I think a lot of people do. So this will probably help as far as that's concerned. And then let's see here. What is the other thing? It is spam. Oh, detection and warning of spam messages in real time. So this is just like the actual bad, kind of whatever, the people sending the spam that you really don't care about. In this case, all caps. That's a big no-no as far as I'm concerned. But anyways, they're going to detect and warn on spam messages coming in real time. And apparently this has been available in a number of countries throughout this year. It's now rolling out in the US. So bringing more useful features to Android messages in the hopes that you'll use it, and then you'll be using RCS along with that.
Yeah, RCS. I by the way, in my messages app, I got, not only did I do all the stuff in the blog post to say this is how to turn it on, I finally got the message in messages saying that chat features enabled, and so I have it. I don't know if I'm using it, but I definitely, RCS is enabled on my phone.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I'm excited.
And actually, Ron, I'm doing a little bit of jumping around. Down at the bottom of the email block, there's an email that you're reading. Why don't we read that now? Because that totally applies.
All right, let's do it. So email from Jesse, who writes it and says, I was wondering, now that you can enable RCS through Google Messages, which I've done, will it ever work with iMessage? For example, getting read receipts and sending larger MMS-type messages. And this is a real simple answer, Jesse. No, it won't. RCS is great, but it does not bridge the gap between iMessage and iOS because fragmentation. Because the Apple continues to want to be proprietary, and Google, trying to embrace RCS and get the carriers to embrace RCS. Until Apple embraces RCS, the two won't actually talk to each other for these enhanced data services.
Yeah,
so,
and that could be a little confusing too, because a lot of the articles that are happening right now are saying things like Android finally gets its own iMessage solution or whatever. And you could read that, if someone's not following this stuff closely, they could read this and think like, oh man, does that mean that it's going to be compatible with iMessage finally? Because everybody knows that that's a sticking point, green bubble and all that. So yeah, doesn't mean that you're suddenly going to work with iMessage, but we have our own sandbox to play in. David, have you messed around at all very much with RCS features, chat, RCS chat, and what do you think about it?
Yeah, I got it like a long time ago. Sorry, there's some vacuuming happening.
Oh, that's okay. You gotta keep the place clean. It's cool.
Yeah. But I actually got the features quite a long time ago. I've been using Google Fi for like 3 years, so Google Fi was one of the first services to get RCS features, and I've always loved it. It's nice that you can force it, and it's nice that everybody has it now.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people really know about what it is and how it works, but I have had people come to me saying like, hey, why do I suddenly see when my friends are chatting? Like my dad even asked me that. And it was like, I can see when you're typing like in Messenger. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's a new thing. He just said, oh, cool. So I think a lot of people don't really take advantage of the rich communication service like abilities that it gives you. But a lot of people just like read receipts and like chat bubbles. I don't really know why, but I think that's kind of a human condition thing.
Yeah, totally. You either like them or they make you nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah. They always. I would rather like not know if the person saw my message.
Yeah. Exactly. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So cool features. And interesting that just everyday users are starting to see the benefits of this. It really, when I think about that right there, it makes me kind of wonder why Google waited as long as it did before just pulling the trigger and just making it happen to begin with. It really seemed like they wasted a lot of time trying to play the nice to carriers game when they should have just done.
They should have just led. They should have just led. Yeah,
really
I agree. If they would done so much for it, if they just said it's here, get on board, and then see what would happen instead of trying to, I don't know, it's frustrating.
Yeah,
so,
it is. I agree.
Yeah. Well, what's also frustrating are bugs, and Google knows a lot about that because Chrome 79 has been rolling out to Android users, but Google is putting it on pause. This is because the update has been wiping data in other apps on Android devices. That's a pretty bad bug. Due to a WebView change that switches the location of WebView data stored on the device. So in doing so, some data wasn't being migrated properly, and it resulted in local data in certain apps disappearing. Google is working to figure out how to resolve this, either continuing migration and moving those files into new locations, or reverting the change to move migrated files to the old location on the device. Google says it will decide soon. So, I mean, I'm glad that they're pausing the rollout of this so they can figure out how to fix it. But that seems pretty critical, and I wonder how that got through.
Wow. Yeah. I haven't encountered this on my device.
Neither have I. Not that I'm aware of. Maybe it has.
Exactly.
I just haven't run into it. So
exactly. It's kind of hard to know whether it actually has happened or not, but I haven't seen it yet. But good to know. Keep that on your alert, Chrome 79, and I'm sure they'll revert that and start pushing out the update again once it's all fixed. Flo, you got the next one.
So I had mentioned about possibly trying to do a demo for this one. I don't know if it'll work with me over Skype, but here's the news. So Assistant is officially your translator now when you're overseas. And actually, hey, maybe David can test this out. Interpreter mode is now available on the Assistant. It was first demonstrated at CES last year on the Home Hubs. if you remember. It was also demonstrated on different earbuds, if I recall. Now it's just directly on your phone. So all you have to do is ask Google to be your translator. And before you say translator, say the language that you want. So if I were in Japan, I would say, hey, G, be my Japanese translator. Then point the phone to the person you want to talk to and have them talk. The assistant will prompt them to say something to kind of like test it out. So they kind of understand what it is that you're doing, handing your phone to them. And the keyboard entry is also an option if that's something that you want to do. I'm sure we're going to see a lot of that on 90 Day Fiance. It only works well online for now.
Of course.
Well, because half the relationships on there are built on Google Translate. It's wild.
Oh, okay.
It only works online for now, and Google is exploring on-device implementation, which they've done with a lot of different services, and it supports 44 languages.
Wow.
So
should we try
I don't know,
this,
Jason,
Flo?
what do you think?
We should try it. Victor, can you turn up the bleed so that Flo's voice is louder? That way my phone has better chance of
See if
hearing
this
it.
works.
So
I'm totally.
Okay, so when I do this, I'm gonna. What language am I gonna use? Romanian or no?
I can just do Romanian in my broken Romanian, and
So I'll say, "Hey G, be
watching
my Romanian translator."
Yeah.
Okay, so let's try this, and I'm sorry, we'll bleep it out so it won't trigger yours on your end. So I did it the easy way. Hey Google, my Romanian translator. Let's see if this works. Oh, okay. Just start talking. Your assistant will automatically translate.
Got it. Yep.
Okay. All right. So.
Bună, ce faci?
Hi, what are you doing?
Oh, I'm just sitting here at work.
That's it. That's the demo. Now I'm too shy.
okay.
Now I'm too shy to
Oh man, but it was going
but
so
that's it.
well.
That's the demo.
Okay, all right. That was still really good. And apparently, so that's auto. There's a manual control what's translated, so I could cue it
Yeah.
on my end if I wanted to. And then there's also the keyboard, so I could type to translate in either
For the
direction.
record, I did test this today with myself. I was just like playing both sides.
Yeah.
But I got camera shy. I'm
Now-
sorry.
Now, David, do you speak Japanese?
Hi.
A little bit.
But there's vacuum.
Yeah. I'm so sorry. I
No,
didn't
that's
expect
very
any of
funny.
this to happen.
It's all good. It's all good. We'll save the Japanese translation for another time.
I will try it this week though, and I will get back to you guys.
All right. That worked actually really well, Flo.
Yeah.
And especially from a speaker all the way across the room.
Well, and it translated what you were saying exactly as it
Yeah.
would translate it on Google Translate, which, listen, I use Google Translate when I'm writing my cousins on WhatsApp, okay? I don't want to look like a fool with my Romanian grammar. So
It's okay. You
try
did a
my
fantastic
best.
job. You tricked all of us. You could have fooled all of us. So we thought you nailed it, but
Thank you.
that's just us.
my cousin's watching this. Like, that's all you said? I know you can speak more than that.
I understand. We have a couple of emails here to get to. AAA@twit.tv. If you want to send us an email, you certainly can and should. Like Nilo. Sorry, I had to search for that. Nilo wrote in to say, I've been trying to figure out the two things below on my own, but no luck. I'm trusting it's easy peasy for use Android pros. Anyway, I'd appreciate your thoughts. First, continuous rolling audio recording, kind of like the black, actually red box device in an airliner, recording a certain period of time continuously so you can always save, say, the last half hour or whatever. Way back in time, there was, and actually still is, an app called Echo that did just that, but I'd guess it hasn't been updated for years. And I did some searching around, and two apps that I know we've featured on the show at some point, although I looked at our tool for the arena and neither of them came up, was Koji, which, God, I could have swore.
I remember Koji. I remember that.
I could have swore you brought this into the arena, Ron, but
I might have. I don't know. I definitely remember this app. Yeah.
Yeah, Koji, which is definitely one of these apps that is continuously recording. When something happens that you want to save, you can tap on the app and it'll jump back in time as far as I think like a minute and a half. So it's not as long as you're looking for, but it kind of does this. This is really designed, I think, for like meetings where you're in a meeting, it's constantly recording, and then someone says something magical and you're like, oh, save that. So you tap the phone and it saves it. Another one is Rewind, which, and by the way, Koji has been updated this year. Rewind is another app, but this one hasn't been updated in a couple of years. But I think this is kind of the true kind of like black box sort of continuous loop recording sort of app. I just don't know how useful it is in that it hasn't been updated for the last couple of years. So keep that in mind. But those are a couple of options. Both have been featured on this show in some way, shape, or form. Bleak seems to know. Bleak is like our encyclopedia. Let's see here. 148. And yeah, so Koji was in the arena. Episode 148. I was not on, so Ron, you were hosting with Gina and Jason Applebaum.
Nice.
That's going back.
It is.
February 12th, 2014. The episode was called Forkin' Android. Forkin' Android.
I remember that episode, actually.
Yeah. Great title.
Funny.
So there you go. Second question that Nilo wrote in with. I don't actually have an answer, but I'll read it out loud. Maybe someone out there has an answer for this one. An automatically adjusting audio output level, depending on the background noise. This should be a no-brainer. The same idea used widely in cars since way back when, but I'd like to have an app that allows for setting the thresholds exactly how I want to. Haven't found any obvious choices. And I think what he's talking about is like, as your phone is outputting audio, it's also taking in the ambient noise to know that it's, I don't know, maybe there's a vacuum cleaner in the room or something. And then when that happens, it increases the audio output to get over that ambient noise. And then when it's quiet, it kind of brings it down. This is in cars. I don't really care for this feature in cars personally, but it is a feature that exists in cars. And I haven't been able to find an app that actually does this. But yeah, maybe it's for earbuds. That's a great point. JJ in chat room asked that question. That makes, yeah, kind of like ducking or just being aware of what the ambient noise is and increasing the output to your ears to get over that. So I don't have an answer for that necessarily, Nilo. I don't know if anyone here does. If you do, say so. But otherwise, throwing it out there for the Android community, AAA@twit.tv. Let us know if you know of an app that does this. Because I'd be really surprised if someone hadn't created something like that. It seems very useful. And I think some phones might even have this feature built into it by default. So, something to be aware of. Flo, you have the next email.
Sorry, nothing to say on the last one other than I have tried Android audio output apps for my car and nothing has ever worked.
Yeah.
Which is
they
just
promise
because,
a lot but don't deliver.
But all right, let's move on to our next question. And this one actually comes from down under, Melbourne, Australia. Dan writes in, after hearing you discuss digital ID on this episode, I thought you might be interested in hearing about an implementation currently being trialed/used in New South Wales, Australia. I know it was mentioned that risks around falsifying ID could be more prevalent with digital versions. This implementation has a few ways of verifying the ID is legitimate, including scanning a QR code on the ID using a companion app. And this can be used by police, staff in bars, etc. And so what Dan is referring to is that last week we had talked about the possibility of using your phone as a driver's license, basically a state issued ID. And along with it is a link to what New South Wales government is actually testing and using. And it shows, like at the header image, there is just kind of a little preview of what it would, Steve Citizen would look like at the bar showing his ID. He would show his license number with a QR code. It would show when it was last refreshed, I suppose. This is, of course, just the way that this one municipality in Australia is doing it. It's not to say this is exactly what's going to be happening in the US, but I do think it's interesting just to kind of note and think about the fact that there are other places in the world that are adopting this. This is a thing that is coming. It's coming. I can see it happening in the next 10 years, just having all of this readily available on our phones. Much like how back in the day, the all-in-one transit card, that idea was a wide-eyed idea, but now it's prevalent around so many different transit agencies around the world. So
sure,
I don't know.
Mobile payments falls into that category as well.
That's also true. Yeah. That's also true.
For sure. It's got to start somewhere.
I forget about mobile payments are such a part of my life, and yet I forget about them having not always been.
Yeah.
It definitely has crossed over into like now it works. Like at least the places I go, I'm using it more and more. I'm using GPay more and more retail locations.
I am too. I'm actually using it a lot now, and I've crossed that gap.
I use it to get gas. Do you know how fast it is to get gas? Just tapping your phone instead of inserting the car. And
I will say I didn't get a photo or video of it, but I tapped my phone to get onto the subway recently because they are rolling that out here in New York City.
That's right.
There's a whole thing. You just tap your phone, it bleep, and you go through the turnstile. So goodbye MetroCard.
Nice. You guys are getting that way before us. What the heck?
Yep.
So I should say that Bleak in chat has been going off on the fact that Bleak has one of these ID cards.
Oh.
Says it works pretty well. So
cool.
So I've just been pretty clueless to this whole digital ID card thing, and I think with it potentially coming to Android 11 and all the components being baked in there, kind of seems like there's already places around the world that are implementing this sort of thing. This would tailor to that and open the way for it here. So it'll be interesting to see how that gets implemented in the different places around the U.S. when that happens. But I'm open to it. Sure. Why the heck not?
Yeah, just put it all on my phone. It's fine, I guess, at this point.
Bleak is sending a screenshot of some sort. Bleak must have taken a photo of his ID. I don't know if that's a good idea, Bleak. I don't know if we should show that on the show. I don't know if we should show your driver's license on the show. We'll monitor that. We'll see. Let's see here. We're about to jump into the arena. I'm curious, though, David. Is the place clean now?
They're shampooing. I didn't expect.
They're shampooing.
They're shampooing the entire place. I didn't expect any of this to happen.
You know what? That's good. It means it's a super clean hostel. Like I wish some of the hostels I've stayed at over the years had shampooed carpets.
Yeah. Let me move over.
I think everybody understands. We'll just keep you muted. We're gonna go into the arena, and then when it's your app, it'll be a particularly noisy. But hilarious app review.
It's a bit at this point.
Yes, exactly. It's become a bit. At this point, it's just a bit.
That's very funny.
So let's see here. Why don't we jump right in the arena? Let's do it right now.
So many enter, but only one lives. Android Arena.
You know, the Android Arena bumper actually kind of sounds like there's a vacuum in the background.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like we meant to do it.
That's the crowd.
Yes, that's the crowd cheering David on. It's not a vacuum. It's the crowd cheering him on while he talks about his app. All right, David is literally like walking through the hostel at this point to find a new place to be. While he does that, twit.to/AAA-poll450 is where you went to place your vote last week. And when you did that, you voted and you told us which app was your favorite. And I'm pulling it up right now. And with 54% of the votes, Harmony wins the top spot.
Oh, wow.
Who had Harmony?
I did.
Yay, Flo. Your winning streak continues.
There you go.
You know, it was that pan flute. People love a pan flute.
Right.
They really do. Right. That's a magic solution.
There's something mystical about a pan flute. Second place, Zentress. That was my game, 25%. And then third place was Buffer, 20%. of the votes.
Yeah, I missed last week, so I didn't get any additional points. But Jason, you are still in last place with 101 points. I am in third place with 108 points. Guests are in second place with 127 points, and Flo is in first place with 164 points. And with there's one episode left to go in the year.
Yeah, this is basically the last arena. Yes.
Oh, so with this being the last arena, you would think Flo has it locked up, but what they don't know is that this is the winner-take-all arena, and whoever wins this arena gets.
I wasn't informed.
Oh, is that how it works?
I was not informed.
That's the thing, with the arena, you don't know. Sometimes this happens; it just comes out of nowhere. So this is
that took me by surprise. I have to say, I did not see that coming.
Now the question, though, if we don't want to have something happen to us directly, Flo, this is your option. You could choose to. Do you want to double down all of your points on this? Do you want to bet your entire year's worth of points on the fact that you'll win this week?
No.
Okay. I'm just making it interesting.
No, why would I do that? I've already won.
This week, listen.
Making it interesting.
Transparency. I told myself, you know what? I got this. I think today I should bring an app to the arena that I've really enjoyed using and that obviously people are going to roll their eyes at me about. But you know what? I am me. I am who I am. And that's how I'm going to end this decade.
That's great. I think that's the best kind of app to do double or nothing and bet all of your points on a first place victory.
Not sure it's going to work for you, Ron. Not sure it's going to work. Just don't think it's going to happen.
You can't say I didn't try.
Yes, that's true. That's true. All right. So you'd think I would remember how to do this. So because you were out, does that mean you go first?
Yeah, I go
first.
first.
That's your punishment, Jason, just to go first?
Yeah, Jason, you go, guest, then Flo.
Okay, all right. So, Ron, I've got yours installed. Tell us all about it.
Yes, so I have a lovely app that will allow you to modify the way your phone's ringer works to allow it to do two things. One is to enable vibrate first, then ring, which is a function that exists only in Pixels. So you can, if you don't have a Pixel phone, you can expand this out and get that to your phone. But it also allows you to have an increasing volume to the ring, which is interesting because if you have a ringtone that is kind of abrasive or rather loud, you can fade into it. You can have it ease into it, which is neat. But the also other interesting thing is that what Ringmaster allows you to do is enable phone ringing, not just on the phone app, but for WhatsApp or Duo or other apps that you use to ring the phone and have the unified same ring behavior across all of your phone apps and enable the vibrate first function, which is pretty cool. So Jason's there on the settings screen, as you can see in the demo. And so what you can do is up top, you can choose whether you want this to work on incoming phone calls or on other phone calling apps, which is an option there. Up top, there's a notification that you can turn on or off to indicate whether or not you want to use it or not. And then you can turn on or off the vibrate first function. And then you can also set the duration for vibrating. And then below that, you can set the ringer control where you can have an increasing ring volume, and you could specify from what volume, from 1% to 100% that you want it to go, and how long it takes to get to 100%, or you can just have a fixed ring volume. And that's pretty much it. It just gives you a little granular control over your ringer function, which is pretty cool. So...
Nice.
Yep, Ringmaster. There is an in-app purchase for 99 cents, which unlocks other functionality. I don't know quite what because I didn't pay the 99 cents. But if you like the app, check it out. Maybe you'll find out what you get for when you pay for it. So
maybe it's in the FAQ. No.
Important to note that, and in their FAQs, a couple of things. I just saw the FAQs. So it won't. This won't tamper with your master sound volume on your phone, and also it respects your D&D settings. So if you have Do Not Disturb set, it will apply that. It's basically wherever your phone rings, it will inherit those. It will take over that function and then apply whatever rules you set with this app. So Ringmaster, increasing ringtone volume. Check it out.
Master that ring with Ringmaster.
Because really, at this point, after Android 10 and so many years of doing it, the real last frontier on our phones is ring controls.
Yeah.
Like, we really got to get a handle on these ringers.
The only thing left before this becomes a perfect operating system.
Exactly, is rings. Yep.
It's just rings.
Or it's perfect.
Yep, and then it's perfect. And then, then they can stop iterating, and they can just do that forever. Same OS, no updates, doesn't need to change at all. I totally agree, Ron.
Yeah.
All right. Ringmaster is the name of that app. So mine is a game, and it's called Very Little Nightmares. $6.99. So it'll put you back a little bit, but it's a full self-contained game, and I really actually like this game a lot. It's basically it's a point to navigate sort of game with a whole lot of puzzles along the way. Definitely a good game for headphones. A lot of kind of like ambient, kind of eerie, spooky noises throughout. I'm going to go ahead and continue here. Of course, I've played into the game a little bit, so the puzzles aren't going to be super top of mind. But basically, you can see I'm the little kid in the raincoat down here, and I've got all these different places on the floor that I can navigate to. Really, it's just all about kind of finding where you can go and trying to avoid the obstacles. This is like one of the bad guys that in an earlier puzzle that I was doing, he killed me at an earlier stage, and so I don't like him because he kills me, and I don't want that to happen anymore. So, but like I said, I have not played this level, so I'm hoping that I can kind of figure my way through it while I'm talking. It has, I really like the kind of like the sound design in the game, and also just kind of the design itself. The visual design is really well done. You can kind of hear it's really quiet and everything. You get little clues every once in a while, like sliding down that light, so now I'm here. Of course, the bad guy went in there, so I don't know if I should go there, but I'm gonna go in there and unlock an achievement. In some ways, there are certain aspects of this game that kind of remind me of Monument Valley. You know, going over here to unlock this thing with this little switch that then makes a move over here that you then have to go back and kind of do, you know, tweak along the way and figure things out as you go. It's almost like Monument Valley mixed with Limbo. If you remember Limbo from a couple of months ago, a really dark kind of mobile game. Oh, so there's a clue, so I'll go ahead and hit that. And I don't know what's going to happen. Apparently it's not doing anything yet, so that probably means I need to unlock something else further along. The puzzles can be a little intricate and a little detailed, and it can require going back over your path again and again until you really see the thing that you missed before. Now I'm down in the snow. Oh, I see. So there's a little latch here. Oh, that's not a latch. That's apparently a possessed thing. I'm not really quite sure what that is, but I want it. And if you double tap, you can run. Maybe I need to chase it. Come on, get it. I don't know. I'll figure this out offline. But it's called Very Little Nightmares, and I would say this is a really
any game that makes you say "get it" like that is worth it.
Get it, go get it. Come on, I really want to get that thing. I don't know how to. Anyways, it's a quality, well-designed game. Obviously, it's in portrait mode, so I'm sorry, Ron, but
it's fine.
But I really love the level design, kind of the visual aesthetics and the sound aesthetics of it. It's just a quality game. So you're going to spend $6.99, but there's no in-app purchases, and it's solid from what I've played so far. I definitely want to play through it and finish it because it's got a cool little storyline along with it. So Very Little Nightmares in the Play Store. All right, David, how are things? How are you?
Deep cleaning. Yeah, sorry.
Don't be sorry. It's all good. Like I said, like Flo said, and I agree, it's a bit. So I've got your app installed. I'll go ahead and show it off while you talk about it.
I'm absolutely sure you guys have done this like twice before, probably. a second vacuum. But I only recently started using Snapseed because I've traditionally used Lightroom, and I've used the Lightroom mobile app, and both are fairly similar, but I actually think Snapseed has a lot of things that Lightroom doesn't even have. I was particularly a couple of months ago looking for an app that does double exposures, and Snapseed's like one of the only apps that can do double exposures. So that was really good. All the editing capabilities baked into it are really good. There's an expand feature where you can use AI. It's owned and made by Google, so it kind of makes sense, where you can take an existing image, expand it to extra space or whatever, and then it uses AI to fill in those pixels and make it look like it's just part of the image. And if it's a simple enough like texture, it's pretty good at doing it. If it's more complicated, it doesn't work very well. But overall, for a free photo editing app, I think it's like one of the best available. And again, it has a lot of features that even Lightroom doesn't have, which is saying something because the Adobe Creative Suite's very expensive. So.
I will add that I did check, and we have never had Snapseed in the arena, and I'm not quite sure how or why, but we have not.
Oh, because it's a Google product.
Are we not supposed to do
It's okay. Like I said, this was the tail end of the season,
Yeah,
and yeah, it's all good. The season, as if this show has seasons.
It does.
although I will say, like I think earlier in this episode we also had some apps that didn't appear in the tool yet they were in the arena. I think before a certain period of time they were out.
Snapseed wasn't always a Google app. It did get acquired, so it was out before it was acquired by Google. So it could have been there.
I think that's probably what happened.
Yeah.
No, Snapseed is solid, really great mobile kind of image editing software. I really like the approach, and my goodness, look at the tools page. Like, there's a ton of stuff.
There are an insane amount of tools in there. It's crazy.
Yeah, double exposure. Right on. Nice. Great pick. Snapseed has come a long way, and it continues to improve. And there you go. Looking for an image editor, Snapseed is one of the best on Android. Yep. Thank you, David, and thank you to the fine folks who are keeping that place clean. Flo, I have your app installed. Tell us all about it.
Well, okay.
Okay.
So everyone knows how much I love Pokemon, and everybody knows that I've been really trying to get the most out of my Play Pass, especially now that I'm only paying $1.99 until next November. And I like to use a app equivalent of a Pokédex when I'm playing a new version of Pokemon. Now, those who have a Nintendo Switch may know that the new Pokemon Sword and Shield came out around Thanksgiving time, and I've been playing it. And my favorite way to play Pokemon is the same way I played it when I first discovered it as a kid, which is with not necessarily a strategy guide, but with a little helper to help me keep track of things as I'm going along in the game. So, this has just made me very happy when I saw that DataDex was a part of the Google Play Pass. And the thing about DataDex is it's free, but there's a pro version that offers you so much more. And so that's what you're unlocking if you have the Play Pass. Now, the thing that's great about this, it's beautifully designed. As you can see, Jason is just scrolling through it. Those who are watching the video feed. And it's colorful. So as you look at Pokemon and their different types, you will see the color kind of in their type spectrum. So obviously, if it's a ground Pokemon, you'll see brown and, yellow, more subdued yellows versus an electric Pokemon or normal Pokemon. And it's just... It's also nice because this thing updates a lot. I've been seeing a lot of alerts for it in the last couple of weeks. They keep updating it right now with the different generations. And so right now we're on generation 8. So I'm going to go ahead and follow along, and I'm going to try and walk Jason through this. So Jason, actually, if you go into the overflow menu and you go into the settings, you can actually turn on the dark mode, which I think a lot of people would like, because it just, is a little easier on the eyes, especially when you're already playing a game in a dark room. And now you can go back. So here you have your full Pokédex. Now it's very easy to create your own team. And the nice thing about this is it will categorize the Pokemon by generation and by game. So I am playing Sword and Shield right now. So go ahead and tap on, scroll down, Jason. Or go back to that screen.
Game version.
Go back to
scroll down. Got
and
it.
then scroll all the way down to Gen 8. And let's just put you in Sword and Shield mode, okay?
Got it.
So we're here now. You can only see the Sword and Shield Pokemon. So maybe Jason wants to start putting together his team, right? He wants to know, okay, he started out with Scorbunny. So Jason, why don't you go ahead and tap on Scorbunny as you need. And then you see that little star up in the corner. now you've officially added him to your team. Actually, no, I'm sorry. That's not how that works. That's a favorite. But you want to keep him as a favorite. It's fine. There should also be a check mark up there. Yep. And the check mark is how you add him to your team. And that's how you've noted that that Pokemon has been caught. So then when you go back to the main screen, just go back and go ahead and tap on that caught symbol all the way at the top, the check marks, and it'll show you, let's just say there's 100 Pokemon here. Let's pretend there are not, but it'll show you all the Pokemon you've caught and in their numerical order, depending on the Pokédex. Now, the real great utility of this is if you're like me and you're into stats. Jason, why don't you go ahead and tap on Sobble?
Oops. Sorry. I went all the way out. Apologies. Okay.
He's right there at the bottom. Sobble. Go ahead and tap on him. So now you're inside of a Pokemon page, and it'll tell you the species. You can know things. Height and weight really matter in Pokemon Sword and Shield, because if a Pokemon is heavier or whatever, like that'll impact how much damage they do to you. You can hear its vocal call in the game. That's kind of part of the reason that they update this so much, is I think they're just like constantly adding this data to it. It'll show you the game specific abilities, which is really helpful, because if you're playing Sword and Shield, you will understand like what special feature is going to be brought to that specific game. Shows you the evolution chain at the bottom. Jason, if you go to the bottom and you see that sword icon, this one will show you all the moves that this Pokemon can get throughout its lifespan, for as high as that Pokemon can go. If you go to the plus sign, this just gives you extra information, like what locations you can find it in the game, what kind of what it's weak against, resistant against, what it gets normal damage from. It'll show you different sprites, training and breeding, all these things that just, if you are really into Pokemon like I am, and you like to play with stats, and you like to have these things on hand, I mean, when I play video games, this is how I play. I like to super get into it. I like to have a companion app. I did the same thing with Skyrim. I've done the same thing with a lot of other games I've played. And so Datadex is officially my Sword and Shield companion. And my favorite part is at the end of every play session, I go through and I add all the little Pokemon that I caught in that session. And then I go and I study them. So that's Datadex. It's just, and I just want to say, I've tried a lot of Pokemon apps in the Play Store over the past couple of years in search of something that I could truly use as a companion. And I have to say, this one is very impressive, which is probably why it's on the Play Pass. So,
yeah, it's got a nice design. I like it. It looks like it makes a lot of sense if you know what you're looking at. Yeah, exactly. Right on. That's called Datadex. There is a free version with an in-app purchase, but you can get it included with Play Pass if you are subscribing to that, which maybe you should think about, because right now, I don't know. Can you still get the $2 a month thing, or is that a deal that's long gone?
Remember.
Yeah,
I don't,
sure.
But I'm locked in until next November, so
You are solid.
I'm really going to be seeing if it's worth it when they bump me to $5 a month.
Yep, indeed.
You have time, Google. You have a little less than a year.
It's only $60 a year, really. All right, so twit.to/AAA poll 451 is where you can go to place your vote for your favorite app this week. Twit.to/AAA poll 451. Is your favorite app Ringmaster? Is it Very Little Nightmares, Snapseed, or Datadex? Place your vote, and we'll check next week. Victor is circling. Victor is swirling. And, of course, Snapseed gets the vote.
I'm surprised Victor didn't pick Datadex.
I still use Snapseed. So...
But you also still play Pokemon, right?
Sometimes.
Okay. He's a fair weather friend, Flo.
I think Victor's kids are starting to grow out of it, whereas Flo just never did. So.
There you go. That might actually be it. All right. We have reached the end of this episode of All About Android. And David, thank you for joining us. Thanks also to whoever was vacuuming. Really give them, a thumbs up for us for keeping the place clean. Are they still going?
Yep.
I love when you unmute and it all comes back in full force.
Cheap shampoo.
Yeah, thank you for hopping on tonight. From Japan at the hostel while you're sick. I didn't know that you were sick until you mentioned it on the show. So my apologies.
It came on last night, so it's fine.
Oh.
It's not too bad.
Well, yeah. I hope you get better. I hope you feel better. And thanks so much. And have a happy holiday. AndroidAuthority.com is where you can go to check out David's awesome work. David, we appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Always love coming on. I'll try to come next time in a more secluded environment.
It's all good. Come as you are. That's how we feel. Appreciate it. Flo, what about you? What's new?
I'm just finishing off the year's work. I still need to update Flow Feed. I still need to work on my next podcast episode. At this point, you know what? I'm just happy that I'm happy that FlorenceIon.com looks the way that it looks and it functions the way it does. I have a working website. I'm happy I have honestlytechpod.com. I have an RSS feed out there that's viable. Those are my two goals this year, was to get the website to a point where I was, it felt like a portal where I can, update people on the work I'm doing. And I just wanted to get this podcast up and just like into the world. So I'm happy, and that's how I'm entering 2020.
Yeah.
Yay.
Good work, Flo. Well, you've got a lot to look forward to in 2020. We'll talk about that.
I do. I got a lot of sleep I'm not going to do.
Don't think about that yet.
Try not to.
I will say, Flo, I am coming off of it, and it's going to be a fun ride for you as I celebrate 1 year of my two little babies at home being with us this Sunday. That's my major accomplishment for the year, and partially why I'm so tired right now. But and follow me on Twitter at RonXO or on Instagram at RonXO. Although I am on a social media blackout this week due to Star Wars, which I will be seeing on Friday. So I don't want anyone to tell me nothing. So I'm shutting the world out for this week.
Got it.
Cool. Understood.
There you go.
I won't tell you everything that I know, which is nothing about the new Star Wars stuff.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ron. And yes, lots to look forward to next week. We're going to have a special look at our favorite things from this year, looking ahead towards next year. Actually, next week's recording happens a little bit earlier. I'll get to that in a second. Thank you, Victor. Appreciate all the work that you do on the show. Thank you so much.
Oh, no problem.
For today and for every day. And you can find me here on the Twit Network doing a whole bunch of things. We've got a special episode of Hands on Tech that we're recording tomorrow. So that'll be out at the end of the week with Micah and Leo and I kind of talking about some of our favorite devices, technology from the year. Tech News Weekly, doing a cool triangulation at the end of the week. Lots to look forward to as far as that's concerned. But as for this show, we're recording it a little bit earlier next week because of the way that it lines up with the Christmas holiday and everything. We are recording on Monday, next Monday. So instead of Tuesday, we're recording on Monday. However, so that only matters if you're watching live. It's the same time, 5 p.m. Pacific. So you can watch us record live next Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific. And if you miss that, it's still going to be released on Tuesday. You're still going to get in your podcast feed the same way that you normally do. So at the end of the day, really, all you need to know is go to twit.tv/AAA. That's where you can subscribe to the show so that you get that episode and every episode that we do when it releases. Whenever it hits the feed, it's going to appear for you as long as you subscribe to it. So go there, subscribe, and you'll be all good to go. And you can catch us, of course, on the socials, twit.tv on Instagram, Twit on Twitter, and apparently we're on TikTok now, so Twit Talk. I haven't checked that out. I don't even have an account on TikTok yet. Maybe I should. Maybe I shouldn't. I don't really know. I don't know. TikTok.
You know what? They get aggregated to Instagram, and that's where I watch them.
Is that kind of what happens? It all filters down to Instagram. All right. Well, I am there. So, but that is it for this week. We'll see y'all next week on another episode of All About Android. Bye, everybody.
Bye.